Is the stock market rally the real deal or a bear trap? In today's cover story, how a burger joint is shaking up the fast food industry by paying its employees top dollar. Is buying Verizon bonds the right call? And what movies will hold gravity at the box office this weekend? First Business starts now.
You're watching First Business. Financial news, analysis, and today's investment ideas.
Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, September 12th. I'm Angela Miles. In today's first look, the Dow hits a triple. For the past three sessions, the blue chips have soared to triple-digit wins. Yesterday, the Dow rallied 136 points. The Nasdaq, however, was held down by selling pressure in Apple and lost 4 points, while the S&P gained 5. Gold flatlined, oil added on small change. The SEC meets today with exchange executives to find out what was behind the Nasdaq's trading glitch. Trading suddenly stopped for 3 hours last month, and regulators want to know why. IBM is selling its customer care business to Synnex Corp for $505 million. And Pandora names Brian McAndrews as the next CEO and chairman. The stock has been mostly on the rise the past few days. Todd Horwitz of Average Joe Options joins us on the show this morning. Todd, you have been a tape fighter. We have the Dow well above 15,000, the S&P showing a breakout here. How do you like this market now?
Good morning, Angie. Well, you know, if you really look at the tape overall, where we've been in the last 10 weeks is in consolidation. We're in wide sweeping consolidation, but still in consolidation just the same. We haven't taken out a new high yet. We're just up at these next level of ranges, 15.3 in the Dow, 1685 in the S&P, and that's where we are. In the meantime, we sit waiting for the Fed to decide what they're going to do.
What do you think the market would look like this week if it was minus Apple? Apple has been falling since that announcement.
Well, think about this, Angie. Apple's been falling since last October. It's down about 40% of its value. What would the overall market look like? I don't think it really matters. It only really matters to the Nasdaq, and the Nasdaq is on about 14-year highs, so it really hasn't even affected the Nasdaq.
Coming up later in the show, we're going to talk about that blockbuster bond sale by Verizon. Would you buy these bonds?
Yeah, I think Verizon's solid. I mean, I like Verizon, the stock. I like their bonds. I like everything about them. I think they're very solid, and I think it's a great investment for the average Joe.
Anything else you'd buy right now?
No. I'm looking at natural gas stocks, but really, I really think it's really time for investors to be neutral and on the sidelines as this market turns around, waiting to hear what Ben Bernanke and the Fed have to say next week.
Thank you, as always, for your thoughts.
Thank you.
Delicate diplomacy. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is in Geneva, Switzerland today for talks with Russia's foreign minister on ways to resolve the Syrian crisis. Tuesday night, when President Obama spoke to the American people in prime time, the president stressed he's willing to press forward with a diplomatic solution to end Syria's use of chemical weapons.
We still feel that Assad needs to be removed from power. That hasn't changed. But we also want to prevent him using chemical weapons ever again against his own people. And this is a potential opportunity to do that.
Secretary Kerry will meet with Russia's Sergei Lavrov today and tomorrow. Syria has agreed to a Russian plan to give up chemical weapons. The Obama administration, though, makes it clear there has to be a verifiable process under international control with timelines.
More than 300 economists are urging President Obama to nominate Janet Yellen to lead the Federal Reserve. The economists have signed a letter saying, in their opinion, she's the best possible leader for the Fed and superbly qualified. More than 250 signers came forward in the first 24 hours that the open letter was available on the Institute for Women's Studies website.
You may now add a suburban Detroit hamburger and chicken takeout establishment to the debate on how much employees are paid for that sort of work and whether it should approach or in fact reaches what is considered a living wage. Our cover story counts the chickens at Moo Cluck Moo. In the Detroit suburb of Dearborn Heights, Michigan, employees at Moo Cluck Moo start at $12 an hour. Next month, new employees will start even higher, $15 an hour. Co-owner Brian Parker says labor costs at that rate are roughly 30% of expenses. It's easy to call it fast food, but Parker says it's more than that.
The reason why we're paying our people more money is because we consider them culinarians. So they've gone to culinary school, they've worked lines before, they've done food prep.
Minimum wage in Michigan is $7.40 an hour, with employees about to make more than twice that at a takeout restaurant that turned its first profit this month after opening in April. Economist Lawrence Officer wonders how long it'll last.
You could open up a restaurant or a music store and pay your employees 50% more than the prevailing market wage and eat into your profits. It would work. But if you increase your prices concomitantly, then it won't work. You won't get your customers.
Customers routinely praise the service and spirit of employees. Prices are low. Each transaction averages about $7.50, and turnover has been low.
If they can make themselves stand out and find a way to make it work, then they've figured out, a business model that's sustainable.
We have been able to pay our employees and buy the food, pay the utilities, pay the rent, pay everything out of the till. So we're not really digging into our own pockets yet to keep things rolling, as they say.
Parker says he won't know how much he's paying himself until the end of the year when the bottom line is calculated and money split with his partner. However, he and his business partner are optimistic enough to envision a half dozen Moo Cluck moves within the next year.
Employees working for Victoria's Secret put up a fight for higher pay, and they won. The workers in New York wrote a letter to the company and were behind the launch of a nationwide petition drive. Their part-time hours fluctuated from 10 to 30 hours per week, and their pay was under $10 per hour. Although the Victoria's Secret workers say they were treated even worse by the lingerie company during the wage battle, eventually they reportedly received pay raises just above $11. The company had no comment.
BlackBerry cut dozens of U.S. salespeople this week, adding to the blue mood at the troubled company. The layoffs are part of rolling job cuts. Last month, the company put itself up for sale, and now its biggest shareholder, Fairfax Holdings, is rumored to be in talks to take the company private. BlackBerry shares lost more than $1 this week.
Protesters are expected to fill the streets of Warsaw, Poland now through Saturday as they rally for higher pay. The demonstrations are said to be organized by unions claiming businesses are exploiting workers. Government leaders in Poland recently reworked the pension system, which was not popular with the middle class, and raised taxes, which is being protested by corporate business owners.
The U.S. Postal Service is turning to renting vans to deal with its aging fleet of vehicles. The agency is soliciting bids to lease mini and cargo vans to carry mail. The USPS estimates repairing its 185,000 vehicles could cost $6 billion. Congress is requiring the Postal Service to make annual $5 billion payments for future retiree benefits, which is causing a financial strain.
As we mentioned earlier, a blockbuster bond sale is happening in the market. Verizon is selling an historic $49 billion in corporate bonds. The telecom giant will use money raised in the sale to help pay for its $130 billion acquisition of Verizon Wireless from Vodafone. According to the Wall Street Journal, investors have in orders for more than $90 billion in Verizon bonds. The previous bond sale record was set by Apple in April at $17 billion.
A city council in the San Francisco Bay Area just approved a plan to expand the use of its power of eminent domain to seize underwater mortgages. Under the controversial and unprecedented proposal, the city of Richmond, California would take over mortgages of people who owe more on their homes than the property is worth. Then the city would offer the bank fair market value and give the homeowner a new loan with a lower monthly payment. Banks are suing, arguing that the plan is unconstitutional.
Apple shares continue to crumble for a second day after the company failed to amaze Wall Street with its latest product launch. Shares shed another 5% Wednesday after losing 2% Tuesday. Two phones were unveiled Tuesday, a $99 iPhone and the next high-end version, the iPhone 5S, which has a new feature, a fingerprint scanner that replaces passwords. Tech watchers believe it marks the beginning and the end of typing in passwords.
Absolutely. The idea now is to have a multi-form factor authentication where it's something you have, which is the phone, and something you are, which is your fingerprint. You no longer have to remember a password.
Jerry Irvin of Prescient Solutions adds a fingerprint scanner is not hacker-proof, but it's a leap ahead of password protection.
Best Buy's chief exec is said to be dumping some of his shares to help fund the split from his wife. CEO Hubert Joly sold nearly $17 million, or 20% of his shares in the company. After the sale, he's left with about $10 million to cover costs of the divorce. Joly acquired the shares when he was hired to replace former CEO Brian Dunn in 2012. Best Buy stock has tripled during Joly's leadership.
Sexist, racist, and homophobic tweets have cost a business insider his job. Pax Dickinson was the chief technology officer at the business and technology website Business Insider. Dickinson was forced to resign after a Silicon Valley blog republished his offensive tweets that included racial slurs. Business Insider CEO Henry Blodgett is referring reporters to this statement on the website. These comments have no place at our company. The executive has left the company effective immediately.
Switzerland's oldest bank is the latest to be scrutinized by U.S. authorities in an ongoing investigation into possible tax evasions. Ron and Badner has been in existence since 1750. The firm admits it's under investigation by U.S. regulators. This latest investigation, reported by Reuters, comes after a recent Swiss-U.S. deal that made Swiss banking more transparent as American regulators crack down on people who stash cash overseas.
China now has a record 300 billionaires. The number of super rich quadrupled during the past year. The stats were compiled by a luxury magazine. Real estate accounted for the biggest source of wealth in China.
GM is unveiling its new full-size SUVs today. The vehicles will be built in Arlington, Texas, and featured at the Texas State Fair September 27th. Critics say it's overdue. The all-new SUVs are the first from the automaker in 6 years.
On to the economic calendar for this Thursday. It's initial unemployment claims and continuing claims, along with export and import prices. On the earnings calendar, it's Kroger and Lululemon. Still to come, the Wall Street firm paying a record dollar figure in legal fees. Plus, Bill Mueller brings us the inside secrets of big business, how corporate America dictates executive pay and attempts to run the White House. And a look at the Toronto Film Festival highlights in Movies and Money. First Business continues after this.
In its more than 80 years as a global management consulting firm advising governments and corporations alike, McKinsey & Company has established, well, quite a reputation, yes, for its influence, but also for its secretiveness and its scandals. It's all told in the fascinating book, The Firm, the story of McKinsey and its secret influence on American business. Financial journalist and Fortune contributing editor Duff McDonald wrote it. Duff, why don't you just give us a couple of the highs and lows over the years from this firm?
They do have some fairly notorious moments of questionable advice, however. One of the obvious ones is Enron. They were knee-deep in Enron. Jeff Skilling was a McKinsey guy, and McKinsey celebrated that whole thing. They also were on the scene when General Motors pretty much drove itself into the ground.
And where do we see the influence of the company? I mean, the MBA degree itself, some people have, and in fact you have connected to McKinsey.
Yeah, McKinsey was one of the first companies way back in the 50s to start hiring MBAs, Harvard MBAs in particular, in large numbers, which was a dramatic change from hiring experienced people as consultants. And from the time that they started to do that, the MBA started to really gain some purchase as a respectable degree, as opposed to being sort of second tier to doctors, lawyers, and otherwise before that.
Duff, 5 years after the collapse of the financial system, do we see McKinsey's fingerprints anywhere on that? Because they were counselors to a lot of those Wall Street companies.
That's, the wording of the question is great. We do not see their fingerprints anywhere. However, they were advisors to many, if not most, of the institutions that got themselves in trouble. And the point I make in the book is, while I don't actually know the specifics of any particular client engagement, what seems clear is that if they were advising all of these firms and all the firms sort of went off the wrong edge of the risk curve, whatever McKinsey was telling them certainly didn't have the effect of moving them in the other direction towards a more conservative approach.
It's all told in the book, The Firm. Duff McDonald is the author. Duff, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
5 years after the financial crisis, Lehman Brothers is paying a record amount in legal fees for its bad behavior. Lehman filed the biggest bankruptcy in U.S. history at the height of the financial crisis in 2008. The bank could not find a buyer or secure a bailout because of its involvement in subprime lending and debt swaps. The bank's failure is often cited as the first domino to fall in the global meltdown. Since then, the Lehman estate has paid more than $2 billion in legal fees employees. Lehman exited bankruptcy last year. Coming up, did you believe the beautiful lie? Movies and Money looks at a documentary about Lance Armstrong's heroic climb and epic fall. And later on in Chart Talk, is it too late to get in on the ride as Facebook and Netflix pick up steam? Stay with us. Film critics are taking in sneak peeks this week at the Toronto Film Festival. Joining us now is Eric Childress of the Chicago Film Critics Association. Good morning.
Morning.
So what's in store? Give us some big, giant films you think that are going to be stellar on the screen this
Well, there are a
year.
lot of films that are getting a lot of good buzz out of Telluride and the Toronto Film Festivals right now. The first one on the top of it is a movie called Prisoners. A big cast: Hugh Jackman, Terrence Howard, Jake Gyllenhaal, Viola Davis. It's this big kidnapping thriller from Warner Brothers, a 2.5-hour film that people weren't quite sure about, but the director had a film up for Best Foreign Film a few years ago, and this is sort of his first big American film, and it's got a lot of great buzz.
Well, the bar is set high, especially after Les Mis with Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, some are saying that this is actually his best performance to date.
Really?
Yeah, so that's quite saying something.
All right, also George Clooney and Sandra Bullock are out with a new one.
Yeah, a film that, if you've seen the 2-minute teaser for this film, a couple of them, it's leaving people breathless just in the theaters. It's kind of making the next film actually look bad. But this film is actually, the buzz on this thing is tremendous, and people are talking not just being a hit, but also possibly a major Oscar contender.
Captain Phillips, what's that all about?
Well, this is a film about the 2009 hijacking by the Somali pirates, and Tom Hanks plays the title role of Captain Phillips, and it's all about the struggle to maintain the situation. It's directed by Paul Greengrass, who also gave us United 93 and Bloody Sunday and a couple of the Bourne movies. Very high hopes on this one.
There's also a film about Lance Armstrong. Interesting.
Yeah, it's called The Armstrong Lie. Very fitting. Alex Gibney, a documentarian who seems to have a documentary almost every month. He started this documentary about the comeback story of Lance Armstrong, and it turned into obviously all the lies that he told and about the performance enhancing. So this is getting a lot of really strong buzz. Could be an Oscar contender as well.
And anything else?
There's a film called 12 Years a Slave. The Butler is capturing a lot of attention right now
Right.
with the African American cinema, and this is a more brutal film. It's set during the Civil War era. Steve McQueen, who did Shame a couple years ago. This is a film about a free man who was sold into slavery. So it's apparently very brutal, but it's getting a lot of very strong reaction.
Eric, what do you think about this weekend? Coming out this weekend, it's Insidious Chapter 2 and The Family.
Yeah, maybe not the Oscar contenders that we were just talking about, but Insidious, it's a sequel to a very small budget film from a few years ago. Director James Wan, who had a huge hit this summer with The Conjuring, one of the biggest hits of the year actually, returns to do a sequel to this film. It's probably going to do, it's not going to do Conjuring numbers, but a film district really can amp up the marketing a little bit. They might have a pretty solid hit on their hands this September.
Good to have you in the show. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Just ahead, a preview of what to expect in trading today for stocks that are hitting new highs. We'll be right back. Turning now to Chart Talk, Matt Kavanaugh of CMZ Trading joined us now, and he's taking a look at a couple of high-flying stocks. Hi, Matt.
Hi.
Let's start with Netflix. This was not a stock that you have been a fan of. However, it has performed quite well over the past year, you have to admit.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't really loved it because it's been so tough to trade. This stock was close to $300 before, sold all the way off to the 50s, and here we are back at the $300 range. So definitely a stock that's tradable. Me, from the trader side, I think there are good things happening from this company, but man, is it expensive, and I would fade the rally. I really would. 250% in 9 months is a lot.
Well, traders have been trying to push this stock higher. It finally got over the $300 mark. Will that mean anything in trading today for the stock?
It's tough to say. I think there was some good news that helped propel it there, maybe squeeze some of the short sellers out. But, it's really an expensive stock, and they've really got to deliver to make this thing push forward. So maybe there's a little bit of upside, but I really think that you've got more on the downside.
Facebook is another big mover. Facebook shares hit an all-time high yesterday of $45 and then some, and it even traded higher in the after-hours session last night. What does that tell you about this stock?
well, how has sentiment changed? I mean, we were about a month and a half ago, people were worried that Facebook wouldn't be able to make money on their mobile. And here we are, they beat on their mobile, stock's up almost 70%. So this is another one, probably not quite as expensive, but you know, the trader and me really would love to fade this rally, if you will.
Matt, thank you for your tips today.
Thank you.
Coming up next time on First Business, stocks that are ready to break out or break down with our ever-entertaining Traders Unplugged, and tips on how to pay for college if you are an adult thinking of going back to campus. That's it for now. From all of us at First Business, we wish you a great day.